Hey guys, Lydia and I here. We want to show you how we use tip-ups for perch. I am certainly a perch jigging guy. I like the rod and reel to catch perch, but there are times when using a tip-up is more effective than jigging, and there's times when it's just plain funner because you get to see flags, you can get a lot more action. It's good with kids. So, but perch don't really love getting hooked on a tip-up, and there's some tricks to really getting effective, much more flags per fish. And I want to go over what we do with our tip-ups for perch. First is a selection of the tip-up. There's a lot of different tip-up options. There's certainly, the T-type that come up out of the hole, the 40-ups, those things. Those are good tip-ups. And they're particularly good in deeper snow because these little buggers, when this flag goes up, it only sits up this high and you wouldn't see it in deeper snow. So I switch over to those later on in the season sometimes when I can't see the flag. But when it comes to the most probability of hooking a perch, I usually pick something like this polar tip-up or a T-style trigger tip-up. And I'll show you the reason why in a moment. The other thing I like to do, and is really important, is, what are you doing, is sounding the bottom. I'm going to put a link to everything I show you here, but one of these buggers right here, it's just a clip with a weight. They call it a depth sounder. We got to know how deep it is. So I hook this, I don't clip it on, I certainly don't clip it on my line. I hook it on the alligator clip here, so it's loose riding, so it wouldn't hurt anything, and I drop it to the bottom. Perch almost never are found over 6 feet off bottom, and most of the time you're going to catch them within the first 18 inches of bottom, depending on your weed structure and a bunch of other factors. But as a rule of thumb, you want to start by setting your tip-ups about 18 inches off bottom. So I let that heavy weight out. It goes down quite quickly, and I hit dead bottom. That is right here. I'm going to pinch my finger right where that thing hit bottom, and I'm going to come up 18 or 20 inches. One tip, if you want to go after bigger perch, get less flags but get bigger perch, if you set it, say, 4 feet off bottom, the smaller perch are much more hesitant to come up after that. So you can set a little higher and up your averages. So we got that tip-up bobber on. There's a trick here. If you go to Walmart and get these, you end up with the cheaper ones that don't have that little hook. Do you see the hook? They make these with straight wires on them instead of a hook. I don't know who decided that was a good idea, but they were an idiot because it doesn't hold the string on. So when you buy these little bobbers, they are not all the same. Find one that has the hook on it. So I've got that marked at exactly 18 inches. Now, I throw my line on the surface, and I'm going to put a minnow on now. I take this clip off. Now, there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different types of minnows. Perch do take minnows for sure. Rosy reds, fat heads, emeralds, whatever. Something in around the 2-inch range is what you are looking for. I gotta catch one here. So here's a lively little bugger. And the place to hook it is directly in front of the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin's just like the little shark fin. Right in front of that. And don't hook it too deep, because the deeper you hook it, the more you kill the fish. So you want to keep him lively. Can you see that? That's where you want to hook him, right in front of there. There's a couple reasons. One is if the fish stops swimming, at least it's held even Steven, and it looks normal. It looks like a fish would be. Also, a perch usually grabs the bait somewhere randomly, usually toward the head, runs with it a little bit, turns it, and takes it in. And when they take it in, if you hook it at that point up high on the back with that treble hook, you're much more likely to get a nice kind of like above the top of the mouth kind of hit, a hook set on that fish. And now we're going to settle this guy down. I showed you, I said 18 inches, but I actually set my bobber at about 22 inches above that point. That's because the spool itself is going to be lower in the water. The reason you want spools that are sitting in the water, not so much hanging up above, is because most days when you're ice fishing it's below 32 degrees and then the ice is frozen, which makes it so you want your whole line in operation in the nice warmer water comparatively under the ice, keeping everything functioning. So I'm going to now wrap up enough line that bobber, which it's not doing any function as a bobber, it is a line marker, really. I'm going to have that guy right there, so he's about 2 inches below, and I set this tip up with the crossbar. Now, we got a fish. Lids, we got a fish. Lids, there, come here. Well, that wasn't a very good demonstration of how to set a tip up. What do we got? Look at that. Well, all right. Well, that's how to catch a perch, isn't it? What do you think? So sometimes it's that simple. I'm gonna have to get this guy off and reset to show you the strategy when we get a flag. Sorry about that interruption. I wasn't expecting a fish that fast. But what I was trying to say is perch often will take a minnow, fool with it, and drop it. You can have as much as 50% success rate on a flag. And some of the ways to reduce that is using small treble hooks and to run to the flag as soon as it goes up. The quicker you can get there, the more likely the fish is going to be there when you arrive. We'll see if we get another one here in a second. So, okay, I was also saying, if the wind is coming down the lake, I'm gonna set this flag so the wind is blowing the flag against the trigger, not on the other side where it would blow it off. Most of these triggers also have a heavy setting and a light setting with a notch on the heavier side. If you're using big bait or using this for pike or something, you would set it on the heavier side. Obviously, I want the least amount of restriction. I want that fish to feel the least amount of hesitation when he takes a bait. So sometimes I even almost trigger it myself. I get it close to the place. I'm setting it into the wind. We might have a fish here in just a second at the rate we're going. So I've set it into the wind. I also want to mention what I set up at the other end. We have what's I call dry con line. I'll put a link to all this stuff. Dry con line is a heavy, almost more than kite string, unbreakable braided line. The reason we use that is because we're throwing line on the ice. We don't want a bunch amount of filament. We're going to have it break all the time, and we're going to have a twisted mess. The dry con handles that better. So that's the majority of our playing line. Then we have a leader. So I switch that over to a swivel, and I put a leader on. If I'm lake trout fishing, I want that leader to be 15 feet long. If I'm perch fishing, I want the shortest I possibly can. Sometimes as short as 3 feet, hardly ever more than 6 feet long, because I want everything to be efficient and the least amount of tangles and issues that come around. So I'll have a 6 feet of leader, and then, and I'll show this in an up-close video, either some sort of a split shot, or what I've been using now is a tungsten bead that's pegged. I'll give you the link to those. There's a couple advantages. The lead split shots kind of worked pretty well. You could squish them on. They didn't crush your line too bad. They were dense enough to work. They weren't very shiny, so the fish could see them. Disadvantage was they were killing the fish and everybody that touched them. So that wasn't really working. A lot of places they're illegal, and they're just not a good option. The steel, however, that they replaced them with wasn't a good option either, because you'd put them on that light leader and you'd crimp the leader and weaken the leader, and they were stupidly shiny, which attracted the fish. What I really like now is a dull colored tungsten bead that's corked. And normally, if you're tip-up fishing, I sometimes use the same leader, same hook, same everything for months of the season. So investing a little extra in your tungsten isn't that crazy of a thing on that end. Then I have my sinker, and about 12 inches beyond that, I have my treble hook. That's usually a light wire, size 12 treble hook. The reason for that is they're less likely to get that stuck on the outside of their mouth while they're taking in the fish, more likely, or the minnow itself, and they're more likely to get a good hook set. So now, why do I prefer these T-style trigger systems over a stand-up type tip-up? One of the biggest reasons is, if and when we get a flag and it triggers, you'll see the line spinning immediately from the top. And if I want to stop that line from spinning, so that fish is running away with it, if I want to stop that line, I grab that T, and now all of a sudden I've stopped the spool from spinning, and I do my hook set right there. As soon as I come in contact with the tip up, do my hook set, I drop it to the side and hand line the line in steadily. You may not have the greatest hook set, so you want to keep steady pressure on that fish. The disadvantage of like a 40 up is if I have to grab the tip up itself and lift it out of the water to grab a hold of the line or the spool, that fish has all of a sudden just felt this really bad form of a hook set where you've kind of loosely jerked on it and you're highly likely to lose your hook up there. I mean, a lot of times you got a gut hooked fish and you just can't do it wrong, but if you can lose it, that way of grabbing your tip up will often get you to lose it. If you are using those, I often roll up my sleeve, reach down, and I grab the spool itself. The first contact that fish gets with me is a direct snag of hooking in, getting that hook set in. And then you return to your. So we're gonna wait a little bit. If we get a flag, we'll let you see that part of the process, and we'll have gone over the majority of tip up action. Flag, 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 flag.
Fish.
Okay, all right, it's not spinning. That's not a great sign, but I'm gonna just take it fast anyways. Lift hard, and I'm gonna keep pressure on it. Woo! And there we go. We got a perch. So that's like the trick, basically. That's it. You want to respond to that flag as quick as you can. You really, yeah. With perch, we can do, 10, 20 feet apart on tip-ups isn't a crazy thing. So you could have 5 or 6 tip-ups in a small field of area. You could jig and keep your eyes on that small field. And on a good day, you might have a flag most of the time between 5 or 6 tip-ups. Keep on them. Another important trick. If you haven't had a flag in a little while, go over and check your bait. A lot of times it'll come up empty because the perch grabbed it on the side and tugged on it. And even with those lighter triggered tip-ups like that one there, they could still strip that bait off and have left you with what looks like a functioning tip-up, but you're doing nothing. A lot of times at the end of the day, I'll end up pulling my 5 tip-ups and find out I only had 2 with bait on it. So especially with perch, periodically, like every 10 to 15 minutes, do a round with your bait bucket, check and make sure everything's in order, make sure your minnow hasn't gone crazy and twisted around. There's that tungsten bead I was talking about, which is heavier. I mean, that's like 2 split shots worth. It's smaller, heavier, and that's about my distance there. So check your rounds, respond to that flag as quick as you can, and make sure you get a solid hook set as soon as you connect with the tip up itself, and keep steady pressure on that perch. Drop down again and have fun. Thank you so much for watching on Rogers Rigs, our channel, and over at our website, Rogers Rigs, you'll find lots more tips, tricks, gear on how to connect with perch and have fun. Thank you so much, and please like and subscribe.